Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to help change the world one starfish or one person at a time. As always, guys, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share. That's how we get the word out about what we do. I'm excited for our guests today. These are some powerhouse women. Anne-Marie and Courtney run a wealth management company. They just started it not that long ago, but they've both been in the financial industry for like 16 and 18 years. So we've got a lot of combined experience. And we went into a little bit of their story before, but I'm excited to get into it with you guys on the show. Thanks for being on, Courtney and Anne-Marie.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. We're so excited.
Yes, I'm excited. Let's get into, well, let's start with you, Courtney. Let's get into your story. Like, what got you into financial services in the first place? You've also mentioned, we talked about before that you really went through a lot of different identities. I don't know if that's the right word, but let's share a little bit of your story and kind of the journey and what transitioned you.
Yeah, so I am a second generation financial advisor. My dad was in the business for 28 years,
Wow.
and he invited me to join him in the business in 2009 and then mentored me for 5 years. And then I bought the business and have been off and running since then. And that's the genesis of where enter stage left, Anne-Marie. But prior to that, I actually had a fitness and yoga company, and that was what I had to wind down. That was my baby. I had to wind that down when my dad invited me to join the business, and I went all in finances and went back to school to get my master's in business with a focus on strategic planning and all the education that goes along with that. So it was a big hurdle, and I had an 18-month-old at the time who thankfully took 3-hour naps every day. So that's how that got accomplished.
He still likes to sleep.
I want 3-hour naps. That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
amazing.
But I would say for anyone listening too that is interested in financial services or even just a career that maybe you didn't really know that you would fall in love with, my other backgrounds, I was my undergraduate degree is actually in English literature. I love reading, I love writing, I love story, I love everything that a book entails. You learn about culture and philosophy and history and just about the human condition. And that plays into what I do here, just because you really have to like people. You know this, Angela. You have to love people when you're in finance because money is so personal, and you are taking great responsibility with someone's resources and helping them and guide them on how to use them best. And you have to love those people and love their story and want to be involved with helping them achieve their goals. So it's all tied together, but very different versions.
Okay. So why did you decide? I mean, your dad asked you or whatever, but you had your baby. You transitioned from fitness. How long were you running that business?
So, well,
He didn't give you much time either. He's like, make a decision.
So I actually started teaching fitness classes when I was 15 years old. So I never didn't teach fitness. So even when I was like doing mission work after college in China, and when I was serving in the Army as a linguist, I was always teaching fitness classes. And then when I left the Army and separated, it was my chance to become self-employed and want to kind of see that, life through. And I did, and I had a great time with it. I actually just discontinued teaching in March of 2021, and that was after 28 years of teaching. And I consider it a break. I feel like I'll go back to it again someday. But really, my dad, it was his belief in me.
Yeah.
He just called me and he was like, "You've always been interested in what I do. You've always been entrepreneurial. I think one day you'll be better at it than I am. Are you interested?" It was like literally a 1-minute conversation. And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm interested." And he was like, "See you Monday." That was it. I showed up, never left.
Wow, that's crazy. That's so awesome. What got you into fitness at 15?
Again, it's people just pointing things out. So I was a competitive gymnast from the time I was 4, and my dad took me to I have a mom too who has poured into me. I just keep mentioning my dad, but he took me to the gym when I was 12. And I went in there and took an aerobics class. It was, at the time, this is the 90s. It's like step aerobics class and high low with the high
I was
knee.
like, I'm picturing you wearing one of those outfits. Like,
Oh yeah,
oh, yeah.
just total,
And the
total
kickboxing,
Denise Austin,
Billy
Jane
Blank.
Fonda. That came later. Yeah, that was in the late 90s. Anyway, so there was an instructor there. Her name was Yvonne Skinner, and I was taking her class, and she just came up to me after class one day, and she was like, hey, I think you'd be awesome at teaching one day. Are you interested? I'm happy to train you. I was like, sure. And that woman met me twice a week, trained me how to teach, would record me and have me play back, like how to do it. And teaching step class is really hard
It's
because
hard,
it's quick.
coordinated, yeah.
And so I feel like in teaching step, it was really easy it was kind of like learning how to drive a stick shift before you go to an automatic. It was really hard. And then after that, it's like anything you teach is super easy. Kickboxing or yoga or Pilates or whatever. Step is tough. Anyway, so that was how that got started.
Wow, that's really cool. You just got an opportunity and someone believed in you.
It seems like
And you
a
said
theme
yes.
in my life.
Like every time you were
Yeah.
just like, sure,
Well, that sounds fun.
give it a try.
Yeah, why not? That's really cool. Well, let's switch to you, Anne Marie. Tell us a little bit about your background. You've had some similar fitness backgrounds and similar switches. I don't think your dad was in financial services though, so little different reasons you probably got in. Tell us a little bit about
He actually kind of
your
was.
story.
Yeah, my dad was in ag lending, and then he's a beef cattle rancher, but a little bit entrepreneurial too. But anyways, so my background, I was always interested in fitness and nutrition. Courtney and I were both former cheerleaders, and then I started just going to the gym in high school, and then taught some fitness classes in college. And then my major was in health and nutrition counseling. That's what I graduated with. But I lived in little old Humboldt County, which is a really small town and area in California. And when I graduated, it was like, what do you want to do with this? I had fear of hanging out my own shingle of being a nutritionist or something. And the only jobs that would have even fit at all were county jobs, which didn't sound interesting. So I actually started off in a bank, and that was pretty boring. And then there was a position available for like an advisor's assistant. And I knew nothing about the stock market except for I contributed to a 401k. So I just took the interview and just kind of started learning from the ground up, worked sort of every lower level position until I became an advisor there. And the coolest thing about working at that previous firm was the emphasis on financial planning. So it wasn't just investments, it was like really looking at someone's whole picture. And I'm like, Courtney, I just love people. And so it wasn't the numbers, it was hearing people's stories and what was meaningful to them, and then what those numbers would actually get them to and mean. So it all came together. And then the other great part about working at that firm was the emphasis on education. So I was able to get my certified financial planner designation after 4 times. So it's a very hard exam. I was pregnant and then going through a divorce during that time. And so anyways, I ended up just kind of like not giving up on it. And I finally passed on the 4th time. And I credit, working at that firm for the emphasis they put on the education. So that was that journey. And then I moved to Reading after being with that firm about 7 years, and then met Courtney and joined our previous firm over here in Reading in 2013.
So where do you think that tenaciousness came from? You failed 3 times before you finally got your exam done. While having a baby, or just had a brand new baby and going through divorce, like where do you think that came from? Have you always been that way, or is that something that was developed?
Well, I'm really stubborn, so that probably had something to do with it. I was pregnant when I took it the first 2 times. So the first time I was like first trimester into the second, and then the last time I was actually 8 months pregnant when I took it. So when I found out, you don't find out your results for 6 weeks. So you kind of sit there on pins and needles waiting to get that letter in the mail. And when I found out that I hadn't passed it for the second time, my son was 6 weeks old. And I was like, there's no way I can even think about this now. So I did set it down, but it's like that little voice was always kind of in the back of my mind. And then it's so funny, we're talking about our dads. Then enter my dad, who doesn't really have a lot to say about much, but I remember him asking me a question, and he said, hey, are you ever going to take that exam again? And I was like, Dad, I am a single mom. I am going through a divorce. I have no time for this. And like, I heard myself say it, and I was like, that sounded really whiny and kind of like a victim. I'm like, wow, I don't like that person. And so I picked it up again. And I think the 3rd time was the hardest because I really did nothing but study for like 7 months. But for whatever reason, it wasn't landing. It was through the same provider, the education provider, and something about the way I was being taught just didn't stick in my mind. And I was unsuccessful again. So the 4th and final time, I just looked at it as like, I can't get this far. Like, I know I'm close and I can't get this far and not just get over the hurdle. And so I hired a tutor, and the way he explained things, like he related the exam to sports and he related it to life and music. And so something about the way he taught me landed. And then I took a crash course with him and some other students for like a week, where we just were like in an airport hotel in the conference room for like 9 hours a day studying.
Wow.
And so I finally was able to take it the last time. And I always joke that, like, I think they just saw my name and they're like, oh, she's back again. We're just going to give it to her this time. We feel really sorry for her. We're not going to make her take it a fifth time. But yeah, it finally worked out.
And then you celebrated.
We celebrated. So when I got the exam results the last time, it was like, your hands are shaking. And I had heels on, I remember. And so I just decided, I was like, I'll open it. And the first word was the congratulations in capital letters. And even though I had heels on, I jumped in the air and I was screaming and crying. And it's like those moments, you always think like those good moments, you feel them and then you kind of move on. And I was like, I felt that good feeling for quite a while.
You can still feel it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's so cool. And so many people quit. So, like there's something, if you're listening to this, like, man, there's something to perseverance and trying and trying and trying and trying and trying. And so many people quit. Like, man.
That she does.
Yeah, 3 feet
like
from
sometimes goal. I experience the annoying part of
that.
No. Wow, that is really incredible. So you got it finally, which is incredible. With a youngster, which is also its own battle. I'm sure, especially like a single mom, like you said. And then, what were some of the, what made you decide to open your own wealth management firm, just about a year ago?
Well, I was being my normal annoying self. And I was manager at our former firm, and I just was kind of seeing some things that we were not able to do, that we wanted to do, like things like this would have been quite difficult or maybe just not allowed. I was also seeing some changes that weren't super excited about, and it just sort of started this stirring within me. And so I started like mentioning it to Courtney. Like, well, what about this? And she was like, go away. Everything's fine. I am good. I don't want to hear it. And I was like, all right, I'll talk to you next week. I'll circle back with that. And so I just kind of kept mentioning it to her. And so she finally agreed to sit down with, he was basically like a matchmaker for advisors who were exploring other options and firms. So he wasn't beholden to any particular firm. It wasn't like he was just working for one of them.
Right.
He just heard what was important to us and tried to connect us. So she thankfully sat down for that interaction. And
we can pause there for a minute. So I'll interject.
Yeah.
I was going to say, let's hear Courtney's side on this.
So she started in April. I know this because we are journalers.
And she was journaling how
and I'm like brain dumping, right? Stream of consciousness, like how bothered I am by her continuing to mention this. And I'm having dreams, and there's like,
oh, wow.
I'm doing psychotherapy on myself, like wanting, all of the images are kind of like very aligned with me wanting her to like zip her lip about this because I didn't want to even really think about it. And so August 1st, so that's how long it went, from April to August 1st, I agreed to sit down with this individual only because I know that I don't know what I don't know, right? So I have only been with the same firm for as long as I've been in the industry. And that's unusual. As you know, you're in the industry, people move around a little bit, not too much. I mean, people, they have longevity. However, 15 years at one firm is a really long time. And so and it's a big landscape. And I knew that I didn't know what the landscape was because I was in this little myopic bubble of this firm I've been in. And so I went to hear what he had to say because I knew he had really vast knowledge of the entire industry, right. Broker dealers, independent, RIAs. He knew all these different styles that investors got to experience with these different places. And so I thought, I'm going to go just to get a good handle and understanding on what this landscape is like because I don't know. So I went in with that. It wasn't for any other reason,
No.
but she was like, dun, 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 dun,
I was so
dun,
excited. I was like, all right, I
A
got her.
win, a
now.
win.
No, she's gonna see the light. And she kind of did.
Well, that's what happened is once your eyes are open, you
Sometimes
can't
see it.
not see it. And it's like, oh, wow, there's a whole big world out there that might be interesting. I want to hear more. And then here we are.
Yeah.
So
I mean, she switched it quite quickly. And so that was August. And then we basically made the decision that we would be making a change in December. And then we just had to, you know, you had to find an office space and things like that. So there's preparation. And so we launched the new firm on April 26th of last year.
Wow, that's amazing. And, you know, obviously where you were, I mean, it's a big jump. So what was the most scary part of that for you? I don't know how it was or not. What was the most scary part of that jump?
I know for sure. I mean, I think the hardest thing, like, so in my past, like, say when I moved from where I used to live and then moved to Reading, it was like things weren't going all that swell. So it was just kind of like, let's give it a try. I have nothing to lose. There was nothing wrong where we were at. And there was a level of comfortability, but then also like a kind of a level of boredom. But when you've reached that level of comfortability, people are like, why in the world would you want to change this? Everything's fine. This is great.
And
And
you're
you
making good money, I'm sure, like all the
yeah,
things.
right.
Yeah.
And so you start to second guess. And then also, I just love people and we can tend to take things personally. So it was like, what if our clients don't want to come with us? So that was a thought that I had. But my husband was awesome. He was just like, you've been talking about this for like, you've got to do it. I just know you have to do it. You have that stirring inside. So I don't know.
I had two primary fears, one less fearful than the other. One plays off what you just said. So the one that's a little less fearful was I had started writing a book years ago, and it actually is just getting published, but it took me 3.5 years. And so this big interruption to my life last year, the fear around that was like, is this book not going to get done? Was this book not meant to ever come to life? Like what now, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't know where that was headed. And then the second, and it bothered me. It bothered me. And because of that career being so comfortable, I was able to like pop in on Tuesdays and Thursdays at like 10 a.m. and like help write the book in the morning. You know what I mean? So I had time to put it into my day. And then, but the biggest fear, I took it way further than she did. I was like, what is the biggest risk? Like, what is this going to cost me? What's the worst or the most this will cost
Worst
me?
case.
Worst case, no one follows. We don't have any income. We lose our house. We drastically change our income and our entire lifestyle changes. We have to, reduce our money for our kids' college. Like the whole future changes. And even when I went through this worst case scenario, I was like, it's worth it. Like, I don't want to be the person that lives her life not taking a risk because of a fear. I have faith. We'll make this work.
And your husband obviously was also on board.
My husband was totally, he thought we were crazy.
Well, and we'd always meet at her house to discuss and plan. And he was like, oh, hi, Anne-Marie, you're here again. And I remember one time he opened the door and he was like, welcome to the House of Secrets. He was just like, and he's like, what are they doing in there? The kids were asking, like, why are they always doing this?
It's yoga room. It's my yoga room.
It's like her office.
There's no chairs. We were just like sitting on these yoga bolsters with like paperwork everywhere.
Yeah, lists. And one of her son Rook was like, what are they doing in there, Dad? Why is Anne-Marie always here? And he's like, checklists. They're just making a bunch of checklists over and over again, which is basically true. We just didn't want to forget anything.
Wow. So do you a lot of people that really question what you did?
Oh yeah, like I was just telling my mom about it. So remember my mom had her doubts, and so we were joking around. I was just home in Ferndale last weekend, and we were talking about like politics or something. She's like, "Oh, if you ever got into politics, Anne-Marie, I would vote for you." And I was like, "Really?" I'm like, because when I was saying that I was thinking about leaving my firm, she was like, I don't think you should. She's like, this is fearful and
You got a
scary.
good thing going on.
And she was saying how much she liked because her, she was there and she liked where the firm was. And I was like, well, you can stay. You don't have to go with me. I was like, but I'm a going. And so I was kind of giving her a bad time. And she was like, I don't really remember that. And I was like, oh, I vividly remember
Here's
that.
the deal though. The reason it feels like a lot of people didn't like believe in it is because she's one of the most important people to you.
Yeah.
99.8% of people were just like, you guys got this. We're so excited to see what you're going to do with it.
Right.
So
sometimes those closest to you, they are worried in advance for you. And my mom was a perpetual worrier. She worries like crazy. If she doesn't have something to worry about, then she worries about why she doesn't have something to worry about. So yeah.
And there was one other person at our previous firm that also was like, are you guys sure you want to do this?
Yep.
And so, and that was a big person over there. And so not total belief, but it's good to hear the cautions as well.
Yeah,
so
it is.
Yeah, they know you're thinking it through and considering it. They're saying that with care and love about you.
Yep.
So you started this, and then what were some of your biggest obstacles that you have had to overcome since starting your own firm?
There's been a lot. I mean, I think just in truly owning your own business. So at our previous firm, it was just kind of like plug and play. Like you come in and the things are taken care of, the utilities and the rent and a lot of the HR things. And here, we are the managing partners. So it's managing the people, getting the right team together. Just even the nuances of like doing taxes in a different way. But honestly, like there have been, but it's been so fun.
Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah. It was more, I think the biggest hurdle was just making sure we were taking care of ourselves and our health.
Yeah.
When we were in that first whirlwind, like the first 3 or 4 months was just a crazy whirlwind, like 16, 18-hour days, trying to get good sleep, trying to still eat healthy, trying to fit in workouts however you could. And you knew it was a short-lived bit of time, but I was going in like monthly and getting like B shots at the vitamin infusion place because it was like, I'm not going to be okay if I don't take care of myself through this. And it's kind of like building, like you're going to have to give yourself an equal amount of rest on the other side of it. Yeah. So that was something we were really intentional and mindful about because it's like, yes, the company moved up in priorities to number 2 after, of course, our faith and making sure we were, putting that in perspective. But it's like our husbands and our kids, they had to take over pretty much 100%.
They did.
And so it was, you still have to pour into them to some degree, but not at the same level. And they were okay with that. But, just managing that and being okay with that and was
not
a
feeling guilty because we knew that it was a means to an end.
Right.
But there was a lot of guilt. And I mean, our family stepped up in a big way.
Huge.
It was amazing.
Oh my gosh. My husband even said, he's like, if you think you're going to try to help with the kids' homework, and he's like, don't even think about it. He's like, I'm taking them to school. Yeah.
To the house until 5 p.m.
Yeah. He's like, don't even think about it. And thankfully my mother-in-law was living with us at the time because we were building a little house for in the back of our house. And it just couldn't have been more perfect timing. She would just like step up and help with dinner and took care of the house. And it was just this full group effort to make it successful.
So cool.
So lots of support.
Yeah.
Oh, most people don't get that kind of support when they start something new. Why do you think you did?
Well, I just
surrounded by ourselves with wonderful
We have
people.
amazing husbands and families. And they just believe in us. Like I think that if we had to do something big again for a short time, it would be the same thing. And we would for them too. We definitely would. And it was, it's just like,
we do that in a marriage. My husband was, he was on city council. He was mayor. It's like, okay, I had to slow my things down while he was in his busy season. So it's like it ebbs and flows in a marriage. We've been, married over 20 years. So this is not the first rodeo for us with this kind of thing.
Oh, wow, that's so cool. And so tell us a little bit of what you do with your wealth management. You told me you work specifically with 3 groups of people. Tell us a little bit about that.
So we work with business owners mainly, and we give specialized advice on investments and financial planning all the way up to retirement and through retirement. And like last night, for example, we had a business owner roundtable. So we do these every quarter, and we had a room full of what, 25, 30 people, held it at a local bank's conference room here. And one of the topics was on business succession planning and exit planning. And it was really well received.
Right.
And that's the kind of thing we love to do, because that gets infused into the financial plan. So we love doing the comprehensive financial plans, in that it's covering your business, your personal, your financial. So definitely part of that is making sure you have a business valuation estimate for the company. We need to make sure we know how the value of your business is going to convert to future retirement income for you. We need to make sure all your financials are buttoned up. We need to make sure you do have a written business transition plan. So if you need to get lending at the bank, you have that document ready for them to go, and there's continuity of your operations, and they want to see that. So these are the kind of nuances that the demands and the needs of investors have today.
Just the investment.
Yeah.
And what's a good stock? What's a hot stock?
Yep. And more, we were getting business owners coming to us saying, hey, how do I structure the sale of my company to my daughter or my son? And these are companies, they're like HVAC companies. These are, we have a lot of the, construction and sign companies and kind of like blue collar companies around here. And they've been doing it a long time, and high value companies. They've been working hard growing their businesses. And so we would send them to their CPA. They'd come back to us. They didn't do it. We'd be like,
they're like, they don't know what
attorney.
Yeah.
They didn't do it. So it was like, wow, this is a huge need. And so we went and got our credentials, the certified exit planning advisor credential. And that really helped us put shape to the process that we wanted to put in place for clients.
Cool. Yeah. And then we also help, we call it complex retirement income planning and family planning. So when there's a lot of moving parts, people have real estate, they maybe have pension, they have a significant assets they've accumulated, they really need a finessed plan in order to figure out the best way to take retirement income. And then we want to help their family too, and perhaps leave a legacy. And then the third type is that I mentioned earlier, that impact-driven investor. So that's really fun when someone has made sure that they and their family are very secure and their future is fine. But that is not enough. They really want to make the world a better place, and they do it through maybe charitable giving. Maybe they want to start a scholarship. They're just thinking beyond themselves and how they can leave a legacy, and they can leave the world a better place.
That's really cool. I love it. Very cool. And wrapping up, I always have 3 final questions. And then anything that we didn't touch on, and guys, all the information for this amazing couple of powerhouse women will be in the show notes, their business, their stuff like that. You're going to be welcome to reach out for any help or any thoughts or anything like that. But I always have 3 final questions. Number 1, and you guys can both answer this, obviously, if someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence you would say that could help them find it?
One sentence you could say to help them find their purpose. I think it would be, if something is on your heart, have faith and step into it.
Yeah, and that's been the theme of your life.
It has. It's not going to be the perfect thing, or maybe it is.
Yeah.
You don't know. And maybe once you get better at something, you start to love it. That's certainly been the case in my life.
And I would say just embrace the journey. It usually looks different than you think. It always looks different than you think, but it's going to lead you in probably a better place than you could have ever imagined. So I don't know, that was sort of 3 sentences, but
embrace your journey.
Embrace the journey.
Period. Yeah. You got it.
Oh, good. Guys are awesome. Second question, what's a favorite quote and why?
A favorite quote.
I'm going to botch it, but it's the man in the arena. And Brene Brown references it. Actually, it was Teddy Roosevelt that originally said it, but it's basically like, it's not the critic who counts. I'm going to say it wrong, but it's basically not being worried about the noise on the outside. Like you have to be true to your heart and what you know best and what's doing, and the noise and the criticism on the outside, you just have to mute it out.
And I'm going to give one more specific to our industry, only because it is a theme that we remind our investors each day, which is success in the market isn't timing the market, it's time in the market.
I like it.
Yeah, good one. Third and final question. What's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
Ooh. I would say grit.
That fits your quote too. I like that.
I would say fun.
No wonder you guys
One of
are
our
great
core
partners.
values. We're fun.
Fun with grit.
Fun.
I like that. That's awesome. All right, you run into someone in a coffee shop. Like, you know, they listen to your story. They're inspired. Obviously, like you can go from fitness to wealth to running your own business to having babies to like divorcing and then still getting through stuff and like persevering. There's a lot we went through today. It was awesome. What's something we didn't touch on that either one of you think would be really impactful for our listeners?
Should I mention the books and the upcoming?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've mentioned the word meaning quite a bit. And to us, all of those things you just mentioned, and with the clients we work with, whether we're talking about their money, which we mostly are, of course, or their health, or whatever their, you know, adventure they're taking on, it's all centered around bringing meaning to life. Because quite frankly, life's pretty meaningless. I mean, you look at like the injustices, the unfairness, you know, young people, whatever. I mean, there's a lot that you could dwell on, but instead of that, we think that our existence is here because it's up to us to bring meaning to life, and we do that by being good stewards of whether it's our health or our family or our resources. So the book that I mentioned that I had been working on is called Move Into Meaning, and it does have an emphasis on physical movement of your body. So it's really literal there, kind of like exercise. And then it has sort of a figurative meaning, kind of like my quote I just mentioned, which is just move. If something's on your heart, move, step into it. You never know what God's going to do with that. The second book that is coming in the series is actually co-written by both of us. And we haven't gotten so far as to, you know, getting it published quite yet. We're still writing it, but it's called Invest Into Meaning. And so we'll get specifically into the money portion there and how we can be a conduit for the resources that we've worked hard for and have been blessed with. So we're excited to see that come to life too.
I like that. That's awesome. Find your meaning and
Yeah.
have meaning in life.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really good. Anything you want to say before we wrap up, Anne-Marie?
No, I think that's a good summary of it. And yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add is that your team is so important too. And every day we are really, really grateful for the team that we've built here and excited to see where that goes. But it's just kind of a joy when you can come in and everyone's on the same page and everyone is in the best role. And we also, like I mentioned, it's one of our core values. We love to have fun. And so that's what life's all about.
Good. Fun and meaning.
Fun
Yeah.
and meaning.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
link for the book will also be in the show notes for anyone listening to this. It sounds like a great book. Awesome, guys. Let's go out there. Let's change the world. If we change the world one person or one starfish at a time, together, we can change the world. Thanks for being on, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. Thanks, everybody.